Everyone and welcome. Today we're going to break down a really huge moment in Shia Islam, the 9th of Rabi al-Awwal. This is the day that marks the start of the leadership, the imamate of the 12th and final imam. And it's a story that's absolutely wrapped in secrecy, danger, and just profound faith.
Okay, so let's jump right in because we need to clear something up from the get-go. People often call this day a coronation, right? And that word makes you think of kings, big ceremonies, gold crowns, all that stuff. But the concept of an imamate, that's something totally different. We're not talking about worldly power here. We're talking about a divinely appointed spiritual guide, a role of incredible responsibility, not earthly rule.
So to really get a feel for this difference, we have to look at the pretty unique and honestly dangerous circumstances under which this imamate even began.
To understand why this day is so important, we've got to travel back in time. We're in the year 260 of the Islamic calendar, in the city of Samarra in modern-day Iraq. The 11th Imam, Hassan al-Askari, was basically living under house arrest. The ruling government, the Abbasids, were terrified of a prophesied son who would rise up, and that fear led them to poison the imam. He was martyred at the incredibly young age of just 28.
Because of all this political pressure, the birth of the imam's son, his successor, had to be kept an absolute secret. I mean, if this sounds familiar, it should. It's a lot like the story of Prophet Moses, whose own birth was hidden from the Pharaoh. The existence of the future 12th Imam was only known to a tiny circle of the most trusted companions. The government was trying to completely extinguish this line of succession. But, as we're about to see, divine will had a very different plan.
So picture this. We're at the funeral of Imam Hassan al-Askari. It's a moment of huge tension. With the imam gone and no publicly known heir, his brother, Jafar, sees his chance. He steps forward to lead the funeral prayer, which is a really symbolic act. Doing that would basically be him declaring to everyone, "I'm the next leader."
But just as Jafar is about to start the prayer, a child literally steps out from the crowd. He tugs on his uncle's robe and says these words, directly challenging him for the whole world to see. It was this incredible public declaration from a source that absolutely no one was expecting.
And here's the part that just blows your mind. The boy who stepped forward, the one who would become the 12th Imam, was only 5 years old. 5. His confidence, his knowledge, it wasn't something he was taught. It was seen as a crystal-clear sign of his divine status. It left the crowd, and especially his uncle, totally speechless.
That moment, him leading his father's funeral prayer, that's the official start of his imamate. But it's also the beginning of something totally different. The very moment he appeared publicly was also the moment he vanished from public view. This is what's known as the occultation, or ghaibut in Arabic. So what exactly is the occultation? Well, let's break it down. It's the belief that the imam is alive, but he's divinely hidden from us. His physical presence is gone, but his spiritual guidance is still very much active. And this whole period is understood to have two main phases. So, the first phase is called the minor occultation. It started right away in the year 260, and it lasted for about 70 years. During this time, the imam still communicated with his followers, but he did it through 4 specific, trusted deputies. Then, in the year 329, the major occultation began. This is the period we're in now, where there are no special deputies, and it continues to this day.
Right, so this brings up a huge question. Why? Why did he have to be hidden? Well, the sources give us 3 main reasons. Number 1, the most obvious one, was to protect his life. The rulers were actively trying to assassinate him. Second, it was meant to be a massive test of faith and loyalty for his followers. And third, and this is really interesting, it was so that when he finally reappears, he won't have pledged allegiance to any corrupt worldly ruler. He'll be completely free to establish pure justice.
Let's keep going with this, because the whole idea of an awaited, divinely guided savior isn't actually unique to Shia Islam. It's a promise that you can find echoing across different faiths.
For instance, the sources point to prophecies just like this one from the Quran. And what's amazing here is that the Quran itself is referencing the Psalms of David. It's talking about this universal promise. A day is coming when the righteous will inherit the earth and justice will finally win. This is the future that the awaited Imam, the Mahdi, is destined to bring.
And you can see these incredible parallels with figures from other Abrahamic faiths. For instance, both Christians and Muslims believe that Prophet Jesus is alive but hidden from the world, and both await his return. In a very similar way, Shia Muslims believe Imam Mahdi is alive but hidden, and they await his reappearance. Both are seen as these divine figures who will establish true justice at the end of time.
Now here's the really beautiful part. This future isn't seen as a time of conflict or division. In fact, it's the opposite. It's narrated that when Imam Mahdi reappears, Prophet Jesus will also return. And in this powerful symbol of unity, Jesus will actually pray behind the Imam, bring the followers of these two great traditions together.
So this brings us all the way back to our first question. If the 9th of Rabi al-Awwal isn't a worldly coronation, then what does this day really mean for believers today? Living right now in this time of occultation.
It marks the beginning of a spiritual leadership that has never stopped. It's a powerful reminder that even though the Imam is hidden, his authority is still active. The celebration isn't for some earthly king. It's for the start of a divine promise, the anticipation of a future era of true universal justice and peace for all of humanity.
And this period of waiting, it has a name. It's called intizar. And it's so important to understand that this is not about passively sitting around and waiting for something to happen. In the traditions, it's actually considered one of the highest forms of worship. It's an active state of spiritual preparation. It's about trying to live up to the values of the leader you're waiting for.
So, what does this active waiting actually involve? Well, it comes with a pretty clear sense of purpose. It calls on believers to hold on to their faith without any doubt, to constantly pray for his return, and maybe most importantly, to actively try to live just lives and work for justice in their own communities, basically preparing the world for his eventual return.
And so, we're left with one final reflective question that really takes this historical, theological idea and makes it deeply personal. The concept of intizar, this active waiting, kind of asks each of us to think, if you really truly believed that a perfect, just leader was coming to fix the world, how would that change the way you live your life right here, right now?